Hey, welcome back everyone. Thank you so much for tuning in for another video. What we're going to see today is how you can create an Azure file share and how can you use an Azure file share as your user profile disk container for your Windows Virtual Desktop. As always, I'm signing into my Azure portal right now to create a storage account. So when you create a storage account, you will be able to create an Azure Files. Azure Files is what we are going to use as a user profile storage location for this particular scenario. So before I take you into the storage account, let's quickly go back and see what we have created so far. So on the first demo, we have went into the Windows Virtual Desktop host pool and we created a host pool specifically for desktop. And on the second experiment, what we have done is we created another group, which is an application group specifically for remote app. So now I have a single session host running in Windows Virtual Desktop environment, which is both catering me both apps and a desktop. So now I'm going to head back into the storage account. I don't have any storage account at the moment. So click on create a new storage account. You know the basic steps, right? You select your existing Azure subscription. You can either create a brand new resource group or you can pick an existing resource group as well. In my case, I'm going to pick an existing resource group what we created for my previous demos as well. So I'm going to pick the Silver Lab resource group, which is where I have hosted my session desktop and other things for Windows Virtual Desktop. Give a name for your storage account. It's very difficult to get the right name because most of the names have been taken. So you don't have to use any particular logic as long as it is somehow matching with the requirements what you have, and pick the right performance level. If you are looking for an enterprise grade performance, pick a premium disk. Other than that, you just go through the basics. I have done another video just to talk about what are the additional things you can do when you create your first Azure file storage account. So looks like our deployment is going on. It won't take much time, close to 10 to 15 seconds to deploy the first storage account. Looks like our storage account is created. I can click on go to resource, straight away take me into the storage account. As soon as I log into the storage account, I have an option to go straight into the file share. Once you are inside the file share, you don't have any container yet. I'm going to create my first container, and that is going to be for the user profile disk for the virtual machine for the Windows Virtual Desktop. Assign the quota. I only have 3 users, so I assigned like 100 GB for all 3 users. And once you are inside the user profile disk, you can see how you can connect it and what is the URL which you can use to access the data, things like that. So that's the basic steps. So the first part has been completed. So we created a storage account, we created an Azure file share. The second step is how to activate Azure Files Active Directory authentication on the storage account you just created. For that, we are going to download and unzip an AZ Files Hybrid Partial module. And when we do that, we need to make sure that we download the latest version. So don't worry about these steps. I'm going to lay out all these steps and I'm going to give you the same partial module what I'm going to use in my blog. So please make sure you check the blog for step-by-step instruction on how you can get there. So now I'm in the page where I'm going to download the AZ Azure Files Hybrid Partial module. So I downloaded it and I'm going to unzip that version into C drive AZ Files Hybrid so that I can quickly go into the file path when I'm going to execute these commands. Let's quickly go and see everything is in place. I can see the folder, I can see the files. Now the next step is we have to go back into the partial module and we have to make sure that the current user who is going to execute this has all the unrestricted access to perform the next step. So I'm going to select the command. I'm going to execute that. And please make sure you select yes to all. The next step is to change the path to the folder where you have unzipped the module folder. So I'm going to quickly go back and change the path to C. That's where I kept the folder, and make sure you select and run the PowerShell script, which is /copy to PS path.ps1. So I executed the command and I'm inside that particular directory right now. So the next step is to import the module for AZ files hybrid. So I'm going to run the command called import module name AZ files hybrid. So what this is going to do is going to download the whole module, which is going to be used for the next steps. It is going to take like, I think it is going to take around 2 to 3 minutes to download the whole module. I'm going to fast forward that when that process is going to happen. So right now it started the download process. Looks like our download has been completed. So now the next step is to connect to your Azure subscription. I'm going to execute the Azure connect command. If you encounter any issue at this particular point, that means that in your local PC where you are doing this particular task doesn't have the necessary PowerShell module available. So what is the right PowerShell module you need? You need to download the Azure PowerShell module. So once you install it, you would be able to connect to your Azure subscription. Now I have successfully connected to my Azure subscription. When I execute the command, I will be able to see the subscription name where I'm going to perform this task. So it returned the value. It says that this is the account and this is the subscription name. I need this subscription name to select for the current session. So I just copied my existing subscription name. I'm going to modify the command and I'm going to paste the subscription name and select the same command. And I'm going to execute that command to select the Azure subscription for the current session. Hit run. And looks like our command has been successful as well. Now the most important step in the whole process is going to start. We are going to join our Azure file storage account to our Active Directory environment. So this is by far the most crucial step. So pay attention to every step what we are going to do now. Please note, we need to run this command from a computer or a server that is part joined to your Active Directory domain. It don't necessarily have to be an Active Directory by itself. You just need to run it on a computer which is domain joined to that particular Active Directory, which is necessary. To execute this command, you need two details. One, you need the exact name of your resource group. So you can go into all resources and you can find your resource group name. Make sure there is no mistake. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to copy the name of the resource group I created. So make sure that I'm not typing in and not having any spell mistake. So I just pasted my resource group name. And the second crucial step is we need to find the exact name we used for the storage account creation. So go into the resource group and select the storage account we created for the user profile disk. I'm going to copy the name as it is. I'm going to go back into the command and I'm going to paste that detail on the command string. And you don't have to modify anything, just need to execute that particular command. So when you run this particular string successfully, you will see the following computer account named as your Azure storage account. And you're going to find that it is being created in your Active Directory. Looks like our string has been successfully executed. Now let's head back into the Active Directory users and computers. And I'm trying to find out where can we see that user account. It's not in the computer. I think we have to go and turn on the advanced features. I'm going to go to view turn on the advanced features. There you go. I can see there is a computer account created, but this is an Azure storage account. So the Azure storage account is being registered to my on-prem domain controller as a computer account. How cool is that? So now that part has been completed. Next thing what we need to make sure is to verify if Active Directory is enabled with your local domain name. So for that, we need to go into our Azure portal, select your storage account. We need to make sure that we can see the Active Directory is enabled. It is under configuration, and make sure you scroll down to a part where you can see Active Directory is enabled. That is on-prem Active Directory. It is by default automatically enabled and joined to your on-prem domain controller. So it looks like that is being successfully registered and joined to my on-prem domain controller. And the next step is to configure the access for object permissions via the Azure portal. You can assign the user or AD group object rights via the Azure IAM configuration menu for your storage account in the Azure portal. So what I'm going to do that is I'm going to create a new security group. So rather than assigning each and every individual Windows Virtual Desktop user manually, which is going to be super tedious, I'm going to create a group in my on-prem domain controller. I'm going to call it as WVD users group. I'm going to give an email address as well, just in case. It's not mandatory. Just give a name and hit OK. So before that, I'm going to add all of the 3 test users, which I'm going to using for the whole demonstration, not only this video, for the future videos as well. I have 3 users created. One is the bird person, who is the user which has got the session desktop access. Then there is Jessica, and then there is Quanchi. So I added all 3 users, and I'm gonna hit apply. So I don't think we need to do anything else. Just straight away go and hit OK. Make sure that we execute a command which is going to help us synchronize this group we created to the Azure Active Directory. So I'm going to show you how you can fasten the whole process of making sure that the changes what you have made in your on-prem domain controller is being synchronized up to Azure. So I'm going to open the Azure Active Directory Synchronization Manager, go to the connector, and you can click on Run and select couple of tasks, either a full sync or a delta sync. So make sure you do it on both so that bidirectionally any changes what have you done is being synchronized. This is one way of doing it. Another way, you can go to the Schedule Task Manager and you can execute the task which is being there for synchronization. You can turn on that. And the third way is go to your PowerShell and you can execute a command which is going to do the synchronization as well. Now, I'm going to head back to my Azure portal. Go to your Azure Active Directory. Select the group from the left-hand side and make sure to search the group you created. Looks like we can see the group we created in the on-prem. And as you notice, you can see that it is sourced from Windows Server 80. Nothing but it's a on-prem security group. Now the next step is to assign the right permission in the Azure portal. So we have to assign rights to this particular group for 3 different assignments. So I'm going to head back to the Azure portal. Make sure you go to the storage account. If you have multiple storage account, please make sure to select the right storage account for the user profile disk. Click on the Access IAM and go to Role Assignment and select Assign Roles. So on that role stage, this is where you're going to search for storage file data SMB share contributor, storage file data SMB share elevated contributor, and the reader. So make sure you check these names. Again, don't worry about these steps. I'm gonna lay out all these steps in detail on my blog, and make sure you check the blog for these finer details, like what's the uh, PowerShell you need to execute, what's the user account role, things like that. So head back to the blog to get those detail in between if you are doing it simultaneously. So I'm going to pick these three roles, and for the account access, I'm going to select the group we have just created. So that's the beautiful thing about Azure AD group. Rather than assigning these access to individual users, which is going to be super complicated and tiring, you can basically assign to an AD group. And we have successfully added all these three accounts into the storage account. Now the next step is to configure the NTFS rights on the Azure file share. So we have created these Azure file share. Now you can go and start configuring all the NTFS rights that are recommended for the use of FS Logix profile container. So you can go to this particular website and you can see all the recommended rights you need to assign to these users to use for the FS Logix. So I'm going to head back into my storage account. I'm going to make sure that I select the right storage account and select the container. Click on connect. Make sure you select a drive letter to map. Copy the command. Come back to the virtual machine where you're using or where you're going to assign these rights to. Make sure you open the PowerShell on the regular access right. What do I mean by that? That means exactly like you don't have to open in an admin credentials, just open in a regular admin regular rights and execute this command. After you execute the command, you can see that you would be able to see the drive is mapped to your local computer. Right click on the drive and go to security, and you would be able to add the group which we just created. So I'm gonna go and add the security group we just created in our on-prem domain controller that has been actually synced back to Azure Active Directory as well. And we have all the three Windows Virtual Desktop test users part of that particular WVD group as well. So I'm going to type in the group now. Check, I can find that WVD users group. I'm going to give full permissions, but you can of course go back to the blog which I recommended and see the rights which Microsoft recommend, and you can assign that. So I refresh it, I can access that. Now to verify that the user will be able to access this drive, what we are going to do is we are going to log in to a server, and I'm going to connect to my session host as a particular user. So I changed the name to bird person. The bird person is the person who is going to access the session host, and I'm going to connect to the session host machine. This is just for testing to make sure that this user have the right rights to access the container. So I'm going to go to run and make sure I have the right details to execute. So all I need is the storage account name and the name of the container. So I'm going to copy the storage account name from the connect button, just that name for the whole storage account. Go back to your server, do backpack or backslash, and put one more backslash. This time I'm going to copy the exact name of the user profile disk or the container. Paste that detail, hit OK. Now you have the full access. That's it from me today. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you on the next one. Till then, take care.